Welcome, Scottish nobles, English royalty, and bald monks to. I'm not sure if we updated the number, so I think it's episode 306 of an Unearthly Podcast, streaming live on the 22nd of May, 2019, and featuring Tooth and Claw, written by Russell T. Davies, and starring David Tennant as the Doctor, and Billy Piper as Rose Tyler. I am Bill Sylvia, the Man in Black, and I am really rusty at this. With me are Mad Matt Winchell.
I'm already out of drink.
And Thomas Fireheart.
I've been trying to think of a werewolf joke, but I can't. So, oh well.
We're back after a week off. We're short a couple people due to technical difficulties and medical difficulties. So hopefully we have a full cast next week if both of those issues are resolved, but we aren't actually able to promise that just yet.
Yep, not currently. Tim lost his phone by accident by leaving it in a cab after going to a convention this last weekend. And Randy Ronson McCulloch has been in the hospital since last week, Wednesday?
Like Tuesday night, I think. But yeah,
like Tuesday night, Wednesday morning, something like that effect.
Meanwhile, I am back because finals are over, and I am not. My brain is not fit to explode every night anymore.
Yay! Just in time for the best werewolf CGI in 20 years. Yeah.
So upcoming tonight, we have, of course, our news and birthdays. We have a bit of geek talk and a review of Shame. And, of course, we'll have our episode summary, review, final thoughts, and ratings.
So I suppose, I guess, I actually, for a change, I get to be listed on the list now for doing articles. So I guess it's right up to me then. So starting off then right away, we're going to head into birthdays. We're going to start with John Arnett. He played Cardinal Borusa in The Invasion of Time, as well as a couple other characters throughout Doctor Who. He turned 102 late last week. However, he passed away in 99. And that was on the 9th of May, right after our previous episode. Up next is Catherine Tate. Sorry, I have to do this while also putting up the images really quick. This is why I linked them, so I wouldn't take too long. Best known for playing the companion Dawn Noble, she has now, as of last week, or very early this week, turned 51. All right, and copy. The next one we're going to mention is Royce Mills. This is also the 12th of May, along with Catherine Tate. Royce Mills played the Daleks' voices in Resurrection, Revelation, and Remembrance of the Daleks. He has now turned 77 and is still around. After that, we are doing a quick jump to the 13th of May with Frances Barber. Clicked the wrong tab. Doing these as quickly as I can. She was best known as Madame Kavani?
Kavarian.
Madame Kavarian. She has now turned 61 as of the 13th. Also on the 13th, we have... Oh, and it's not quite working again. It keeps wanting to work and then not work, this particular link. We have Zoe Wanamaker. Pasting yet again. Zoe's better known to us as both the human form and the usually the voice of Cassandra from the first two seasons of Doctor Who. She has now officially turned 70. 13th is done. We are now down to the 14th. Bear with us. This has been a long 2 weeks.
And I split that in half so you didn't have to go through the whole list.
14th of May. And paste. This is Tristram Kari. Would have turned 94 years old. However, he passed away in 2008. He is best known for classic Who music, in particular such episodes, or stories rather, as The Power of the Daleks, and there's at least 2 others, but they were the weird, like, First Doctor stories where each individual episode got a different title. So I wasn't sure which ones those were, but Power of the Daleks is one that they listed all the way through. And I recall that being particularly interesting music, so I figured he was worthwhile mentioning since I accidentally found him before we perfected our birthday list later this evening. Also on the 14th, and this is definitely one that serves a bit of a mention, and it's going to be interesting to try and pronounce her name. Yazine Churchman. She turned 94 this week, and she is the voice actress of Doctor Who, classic Doctor Who fame, who played both the Spiders from the Spider Planet, as well as playing Alpha Centauri in both new and classic Who.
A lot of names, but they all seem to be worth mentioning. They're all recurring characters.
A lot of these, yeah. Yeah, I did not pick anyone that was not at least a standout in their particular episode, if not also made return episodes. Speaking of, next one we'd mention is a one-episode one, but he's worth mentioning is Roy Stewart, better known to Who fans as Toberman from the Tomb of the Cybermen. He has turned 94, or would have if not passing away in 2008. He also did play a couple of other roles in classic Who, but that's the one he's definitely remembered for. Okay, that's the 15th of May, so going to the 20th of May. Yeah, copy.
Thomas, do you want to do the last 2 since...
Yeah, I'll
yeah.
A little bit, yeah. On the 20th of May, we have Peter Copley, who was recently featured on the podcast through the story Pyramids of Mars, where he played Dr. Warlock. He would have been 104 this week. And finally, on the 21st of May, we have Juliet Cowan, best known for Chrissy Jackson, the mother of Maria in Sarah Jane Adventures, has now turned 45.
Wait, so was she the really annoying mother? Or am I thinking somebody else?
Yes. Yes, I do recall her was extremely annoying you a lot.
Well, I'm pretty sure that was not the actress's fault.
Yeah, I guarantee you that's the character. And
yeah.
God bless her for being able to stick with that character.
All right, so that's all of our birthdays, thankfully.
Yes, so from the top of the list, thank you, John, Catherine, Royce, Francis, Zoe, this is what Randy does, Tristram, Yazane, Roy, Peter, and Juliet. Happy birthday to you all.
Yep. So unfortunately, we moved from birthdays to some lost stories. So with this being 2 weeks off, we actually have 2 of them. We regret to announce that Tommy Donbavand, writer of the 11th Doctor Young Reader book Shroud of Sorrow, has died at the age of 52 after a 3-year battle with throat cancer.
Ooh.
I believe he was also a writer of other Young Reader books, but this was the only Doctor Who one mentioned in the article. We also regret to announce the passing of Paul Condon, a producer of Doctor Who and other shows for the BBC. He is known for writing films about TV and movies, including The Matrix Unlocked and The Complete Hitchcock, as well as being the head organizer of the Monopticon 3 convention in Manchester, which was the first con appearance of Carolyn John, who played Liz Shaw. Paul died unexpectedly following a brief illness after returning from a holiday in Spain.
Ooh.
Hopefully those 2 weren't connected.
Yeah, hopefully.
Otherwise, I know people that are in Spain right now.
All right, and it looks like it goes back to me again.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so future episodes. The Dradoon returned to Series 12. Showrunner Chris Chibnall has confirmed that after a decade, the Dradoon from Smith & Jones and the Stolen Earth will be returning to Doctor Who. His announcement goes as follows. No show, blow. The Dragoon are storming back into Doctor Who in full force, and the series of what? The streets of
Gloucester, I think is pronounced.
yeah, the streets of Gloucester aren't safe. If anyone has anything to hide, confess now. The Dragoon are taking no prisoners and will stop at nothing to fulfill their mission. The whole team on Doctor Who are delighted and scared in equal measure to be welcome them back to one of many treats we've got in store for the viewers' next series. And we're over the moon with Dragoon to be welcoming the wondrous Neil Suk, the guest star. We can't wait to show you what happens when his path crosses with the 13th Doctor. Also, we have Series 12 directors. Let me get that really quick. Up on screen for everybody. Ooh, that looked weird for a minute. Cult Box brings us the news that directors of several Doctor Who Series 12 filming blocks have been discovered. Block 1, consisting of episodes 1 through 5, as well as Block 5, episodes 9 through 10, are directed by Jamie Stone. According to his online CV, Block 1 was filmed on location in South Africa. Block 2, possibly consisting of episodes 2 and 3, was filmed on location in Tenerife, directed by Lee Haven Jones. Emma Sullivan will be directing Block 4, and Block 3's director is yet to be known. And sorry for butchering names. Some of these names I'm just like, So that goes back to Thomas.
Yep. Okay, Doctor Who is up for the TV Choice Awards. Doctor Who Series 11 has been nominated for family drama, and star Jodie Whittaker has been nominated for Best Actress. Voting is open now on the TV Choice Awards website and continues until midnight on Friday the 31st. Once the shortlist has been narrowed down, voting will reopen in late June.
All right, Bill.
Seems we might have lost him.
Did we lose the Bill?
Yeah, because it looks like he's not even on Discord anymore. So might have been an internet issue.
Bloody hell. Yeah, actually, if you could carry on with that next one, then.
Yeah, I'll carry it on, yeah. Okay, out now, as far as our media releases go that we're moving on to, out now in the UK on the Oculus Store, Viveport and BBC VR app, a new film for VR headsets has been released. Doctor Who The Runaway stars the voice of Jodie Whittaker, with the viewer as companion returning the strange and potentially dangerous to the home planet. Depending on the format, the free film is either 11 or 13 minutes. It was written by Victoria Acer Archer and directed by Matthias Chelleborg and scored by Segun Akinola.
I'm back.
Okay, we had to quickly cover your thing because you were gone.
I noticed. Thank you.
All right, moving back to apparently me again.
Okay.
Candy Jar Books. Candy Jar Books has announced Gone Fishing by Megan Fizell from Maine has the winner of the Lethbridge Stewart short story compilation as part of her prize. Megan will be published in the Lethbridge Stewart short story collection number 2. She describes her story as a well-deserved break for the Havoc crew. Candy Jar Books is also releasing a special edition of the 2017 limited print run anthology The Havoc Files 3, featuring updated additions to the previously released stories as well as 2 new ones available for the first time in print. Going back to Thomas.
Okay, yep. back to games, and it's VR again because Doctor Who TV brings us the news that a fully interactive VR game named Doctor Who: The Edge of Time will be released in September. The game will feature the voice of Jodie Whittaker and claims to be inspired by Doctor Who's 55-year history through all the screenshots, though all the screenshots seem to be from modern Who. The game is developed by Maze Theory and will launch on PlayStation VR, Oculus Rift, Oculus Quest, HTC Vive, and Vive Cosmos in September 2019.
There was a teaser, but I did not have time to watch it. We were late enough as it was.
I see no evidence in the images that's anything but New Who, so we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
Back to Bill.
All right. So coming in July, Demon Music Group is releasing what they describe as a narrated full cast TV soundtrack. And believe me, it took some effort to figure out what exactly this was because that description was a little buried. Of the second Doctor story, Evil of the Daleks. The soundtrack is available in translucent red and Scaro Swirl. And for some reason, what they consider to be the exclusive Amazon edition has twice as many copies as what they consider to be the standard edition.
Because that makes sense.
Yeah. But yes, the cover says soundtrack, but when you dig into the Amazon listing, it describes it as a narrated full cast soundtrack. So it's like some of the Big Finish stories where they include narration, basically in this case because it was made for a visual medium and they probably decided they couldn't just include audio.
So they just literally put all the episodes on a record and added a narration.
Yes.
And they dare to add the soundtrack title to it? That's not a soundtrack.
Soundtrack is not the right term for that.
No, that's audio adventure. Thank you, good day.
Yes. Audio book or audio drama would also be acceptable.
Not I guess
audio drama less so, but I've seen things in this format.
Actually, I was questioning the book part a little bit more, but I'm like, I'll let it.
Like, I assume all of the sound effects and everything are still in there from the airing. That's why I say audio drama is probably okay.
Mm-hmm. Alrighty. And that goes back to me, and we got some more Big Finish news for you all. Let me get the links. Link number 1 up on screen. Alright. So, The 10th Doctor Adventures Volume 3. The third box set of the 10th Doctor Adventures is out now from Big Finish, starring David Tennant as the Doctor, Kathleen Tate as as Don Noble, Bernard Cribbins as Wilf. Yay, we got Bernard back. And featuring Sylvia Noble. The 3 episodes are available individually for £8.99 on download, for £10.99 on CD, or as a box set for £22 on download or £25 on CD. And now we got another tidbit for you. Torchwood, the Slovene. Also now out, Torchwood team including Susie Costello face off against the Margaret Blaine, aka Blonde Flel Foch. Pasimir Day Slovene. The Torchwood sync is available for £9.99 on CD or $7.99 on download.
And of course, you get the difficult Slovene name.
Yeah.
That wasn't intentional.
Blonde Flel Foch Pasimir Day. If I do it with a weird accent, it kind of passes by a bit.
Yeah, you just made it Scottish.
I'll give you a 4p on the morrow. All right, so I guess we're going to review a shame then.
Yes, so
Mhm.
review of shame. So I managed to watch the Android Invasion today, which I'm pretty sure is now, if it's not past due by a year yet, it's very close to it. Um, so it's I kind of knew what to expect from this from the Fourth Doctor audio drama that we had done. So that kind of spoiled it, but I don't think that really decreased my enjoyment of it any. Uh, I liked it. I'm part of me says it was kind of middle of the road because there's nothing really flashy about it, but I liked the idea of the twist of they're not actually on Earth and of having you know two Bentons, two Mike Yates. Unfortunately, no Brigadiers. That was a disappointment.
Mhm.
I think this is the last appearance of Benton, although we had planned mainly for it being sorry, I said Yates. I meant to say Harry, right? Harry, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah. So we had planned for it to be the last appearance of Harry, but it was also the last appearance of Benton, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, so what did I like about it? I just said what I liked about it. What I did not like about it, I don't know. I guess I guess there could have been more presence by the actual aliens. There was never like anything approaching really an invasion, so that was a little lackluster. Ultimately, I guess I'd give it a 4 out of 5.
All right. 4 out of 5. I can see here. I'm not sure how to enter this in because I'm not Randy.
I can pull it up. I did not even look at the scores before giving my rating.
It's at 261, at least for the number.
Mm-hmm. All right, come on, load up.
And you do tie with somebody else, I believe. Yeah.
Oh, good.
Otherwise,
Tim,
the rest of us
yeah.
gave it 3s and 3.5. So
I
probably
was gonna
Tim.
say, knowing my luck, it would have been everybody gave it a 5 except you, Bill. Why?
Well, that's just it. Our main. I remember a complaint. I forget if I was the first one to bring it up or if someone else was, but I remember being kind of disappointed that it wasn't a Sontaran story because
Oh,
they
I see.
sound so much like
They're very
supposed to be
similar to
Sontarans.
Sontarans.
Yes, they are.
Oh, I should mention that I don't know, something about Sarah. Well, the companions usually bring up the quality of the story anyway, but Sarah Jane definitely helped keep this at a 4 instead of lower.
Yeah, I think both Sarah and the Doctor helped with that one. They were really good in that particular
Mhm.
story, as I recall. Usually are as a team.
Yeah, it was nice seeing Tom Baker switching between jovial and serious. And what season was it that we reviewed this?
I don't know. I
10.
just scrolled down and it was like the number.
Oh, that's right. Because I'm looking for blank spaces and he wrote X's. So I'm like, why aren't there blank
No.
spaces? Oh, apparently oh no, that's right. The other ones I did were not put there. But okay, so that raises it from a 3.3
Yeah, Tim was at 4 as well.
to it did not change. Why?
It did for me. It went up to a 3.4.
Okay, so it's yep, there we go. Now it did from 3.3 to 3.4. So minor change. It's just moving slowly on me.
Or that, or you just needed to leave it so it would officially update for you.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, minor boost up. There you go. Android Invasion.
Yep.
Android Invasion still just above meh. Still good stuff in there.
Okay, so I guess we move on to Game of Thrones finale without spoilers.
Without spoilers, because we don't want to upset fans. For
Okay,
what few
which one of
viewers
us
we
will go
have.
first?
You can go first.
Okay. So I haven't really been here for most of the Game of Thrones season, if not the entire thing. But so I will say that after last week, I was not really excited for this at all because I was like, pretty much anything I could have been excited for was destroyed last week. This one came around, and I'll say that the episode went as well as I could have expected it to. I guess some people were a lot more heavily critical of the latter half of it. I wasn't really. I had no real expectations at that point. And at first I thought they were jetpacking, but then they mentioned it had been several weeks. So I'm like, okay, they're hand waving, which is not quite as bad as jetpacking. Um, there were some funny bits. There were some kind of dumb bits. But mostly it was just really clear, just like the previous episode, that they were rushing to complete an outline and not actually telling a story anymore. And to that end, it was, as somebody who really focuses more in on the storytelling than the spectacle, it was really disappointing. But mainly it was just carrying over the aftertaste from things I was already disappointed about the previous week.
If you want, you can give your like overall thoughts on the season, because I've basically just been waiting until now to give my
Got you. I mean,
thoughts.
I enjoyed the first half. It definitely wasn't perfect by any means, but it was at the same quality as season 7, I'd say. The latter half, not as good. It definitely felt a lot more rushed. It partially because the first half of the season was all about one battle, so it was kind of, it was, if anything, slower than it should have been. But I was okay with it because there were a lot of character moments that I knew that a lot of fans were waiting for. The latter half of the season, a lot of plot happened, even though people claimed that there was not half a season's worth of content after what happened in episode 3, but that was BS. But there was a lot of plot happening. I saw somebody say that, it should have been a full 7-hour season or whatever for those 3 episodes, and I kind of agree with them. A lot happened in those 3 episodes, and it just felt like they were rushing to complete the bullet points that George Martin had given them, whether the same or not. You can't tell what's the same and what's not, but they were rushing to complete whatever their outline was and not to deliver a character-driven story, and it really showed.
Of course, the funny thing is about you preferring the first half to the second half is, guess who wrote the entirety of the second half?
I did not look at all at the writers.
Dave and God, I can't remember his name, but generally the
D&D.
showrunner.
So somebody else wrote the first
I kind of
half?
hate referring to them as that, because I always just think of Dungeons and Dragons when people say that. So, but yeah, I can remember
Benioff and Weiss
them.
then.
Yeah. Just it is so funny that the half of the season that gets the most crap is the season that they wrote, is the part of the season they wrote. But yeah.
Well, I guess I mean, you say that, but you've been watching Doctor Who, and which episodes from the Moffat era have we criticized the most heavily?
True. Well, to be fair, Moffat has had his occasional moments of brilliance. I remember us enjoying series 10's ending, even if we didn't think it was perfect necessarily. I remember we were all pretty behind World Enough in Time, at least. But yeah,
but anytime that Moffat has written half of the season, we've complained about at least half of that.
Right. But yeah, it's funny because I'm a lot. I'm on the fence with this season of Game of Thrones, because I could see I guess it's the thing that I could kind of see what they were going for in some cases, even if I'm I will very readily agree with people that this could have been a hell of a lot better. But I don't know. I don't know if it's just that I've resigned myself to be yeah, this probably wasn't good.
Well, it's also a lot of some of the plot points that are really upsetting in the way they presented them could have been presented in a way that made sense. Obviously the main twist was basically someone being in a bad mood and doing terrible things as a result. Could have really, after a ton of exposition of people claiming she would without any justification. But if that really could have actually been built up to in an actual character arc. But there was no arc here. There was a flat line, and then there was a plateau.
Yeah,
there was a cliff, a character cliff.
Of course. Well, that is the interesting thing is that The interesting thing, as I've seen, is there are some people who are defending decisions made, are people who actually went through and rewatched from season 1 to now. So I actually kind of, now that this is all out, I almost kind of want to go back
So
from the start to now and see if that actually adds up for
here's the
me.
thing. A lot of
Like,
people are
or if it's
pointing
just
out that
personal.
there was foreshadowing, but to quote, I forget who it was, but I think this was an article title. Foreshadowing is not character development, and you can't
Yeah.
just foreshadow. And I mean, that's the exact. People were comparing this to the Star Wars prequels, and that is the same problem. Everyone knew what was going to happen at the end, but that didn't actually make the character arc believable.
Yeah. Like, I'm not gonna. I'm one of those people where, like, I'm that far on the fence that I can definitely see both sides of people who absolutely hate it and people who are just like, not necessarily blindly love it, because if people are going to blindly defend this, I'd be like, there is problems.
Mhm.
But like, of course, though, that is the funny thing. There are a few like issues that some people had that by the end of the final episode is like, oh, well, I mean, that technically resolved itself. Um, and I think the problem is that just like the midpoint of the season was such a high note that you're like, oh, we've only got this left. It's always kind of the reverse of something like, God, that's probably a good example. Battle of the Five Armies, because Battle of the Five Armies has, we get the Sauron subplot out of the way, and we get Smaug out of the way early, and then the rest of it is leading up to the Battle of the Five Armies,
Mhm.
and they actually spend that time building up the fact that Thorin's kind of going nuts,
Mm-hmm.
but
Right,
we
and
end on a
it's
big battle. We
mhm.
don't we don't like go big battle middle of the season and then
But it's
basically.
even if you look at it, it's basically they're going from imagine if after defeating Voldemort there was a post climax against
Mm.
Umbridge. You can imagine how people really would have been feeling strong emotions and really in favor of that. That's how this season should have been, but it was
Mm.
written in such a way that nobody cared.
Yeah, which is it's one of those things where I'm just like, oh god, these two are getting a fucking Star Wars trilogy. Ah,
Mm-hmm.
like that's been going around a lot, but it is kind of just like, I kind of hope Disney looks at this and goes, hey, maybe we shouldn't have handed them one so
Right.
like so
They
out of
they
nowhere.
they basically gave Benioff and Weiss all the credit for George's work.
Yeah, especially considering like I'm pretty sure Weiss has like very few movie credits anyway, and the
Um,
only Benioff movie I know I've
one of
seen is
them wrote.
Joy.
One of them was responsible for Mute Pool,
Mm.
X-Men Origins Wolverine.
That
Oh.
was Benioff.
Mhm.
Benioff did that, as far as I can tell, and he also did the 2004 movie Troy, um,
Mm.
which kind of in a way is like, oh, that kind of makes sense. Even though I actually kind of like that movie to a point, if I like turn my brain off.
I have no opinions on Troy. Mute pool, it makes me want to punch somebody.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, like it is one of those things where like at least Ryan Johnson had to like prove himself with a Star Wars movie.
Mm-hmm.
And then Kathleen Kennedy was like, I like what you did, so I'm going to give you a spin-off trilogy. It's like, okay, that's reasonable. You've been doing this show for 10 years based on someone else's stuff. I'm going to give you
Mm-hmm.
I'd
Oh
give
dear.
I'd give JJ Abrams a fucking spin-off trilogy before I gave these two
Yeah.
something. Like at least
Yeah, at least
they're
JJ's
like
first movie attempt was really good, and hopefully his correction will be really good too.
um but yeah, like it'll be interesting to go back and watch Game of Thrones as a whole now. But that is kind of the interesting thing, is that while I feel like there are probably going to be people who will be like, oh, well, George better not do this or whatever. And it's like, it's going to be a different thing anyway, because
Mhm.
as George himself has pointed out, there are so many character differences and
Yeah.
so many like divergences from the books anyway, because they knew they were going to have to.
Mhm.
Because it's like, well, we're getting rid of all these characters, so we're going to have to divert from the books somewhat.
Right.
So, there are just so many more. Like,
Not to
there's
mention the
gonna be
books are
so
going to
many
have so
more
much more
plays.
nuance than that the TV show is not
Yeah.
going to have. So
Yeah. Plus, those like George himself has also stated that like those books are probably going to be longer than the Lord of the Rings each. Those last two, so like on their like a piece. So that in itself is like there's going to be like a lot in those compared to 6 hours of television. I do remember seeing some people thinking that like the first 3 episodes of this should have been added to the end of season 7, and that like if they were going to do six
Oh yeah, I could see
episodes for
that.
this, and if there were like 6 episodes for season 8, then that could have been like that half season of
Right.
what we had left after that, just
Mhm.
all those 6 episodes doing that instead of that, which I would have been fine with. And honestly, I would have been fine with them doing 10 seasons. And the funny thing is it's like, okay, if those two,
how long
if
have we been going on this,
Weiss
by the way?
and
Sorry.
yeah, like sorry, I'll try to
I was
remember.
keeping track of the time. I knew we were at less than the hour mark, so I
Okay.
Yeah, like if Benioff and Weiss just wanted to move on, hey, here's an idea. Hand it off to someone else.
yes.
Like if
Mhm.
like that would have been.
That would
I
have been a
don't think
logical
anyone would have
choice.
cared at that point. Like
Mhm.
if you wanted to move on, hand it over to like go a certain way in, and then just hand it off to someone else. Like
Right. I'm sure HBO would not have difficulty finding somebody
yeah.
who knew what they were doing.
Mm. Like. But yeah, in any case, as I've said, like there are people who are like, "Oh, you should remake season 8." Don't, for one, and there's no way HBO is going to. Like, come on,
Mhm.
people. The amount of money that they spent on this, it's not like they're just going to go,
The,
"Oh yeah, we can just easily throw money to
the
do that
the
again."
only
Like,
way
no.
I'd see it being remade in the next 20 years is if they remake it as a movie, as a series of movies. And to be
Mm,
honest, that would probably be worse because you would only have 2 hours per book.
yeah, my suggestion would be wait until the books are actually done, which will probably be another 20 years. He will probably be pushing 90 by the time these books are done. And when they're both done and
You mean
out.
his kids aren't going to publish his notes? Call it
Well, as far as I
the,
know, he's
the
got it.
song Marillion.
Yeah, like as far as I
Don't make me
know,
hurt you.
he's actually got it in like his will or something that they cannot do anything with them if he doesn't finish them before he dies.
So he's learned from Tolkien's mistakes.
Yeah. So yeah, like my suggestion would be do it. Yeah, wait until the things are done and then do it animated, so you don't have to worry about the fucking kids aging, and just do like 10 seasons, 12 seasons, however long you think it's gonna take, and just whether it's HBO again or it's Netflix or whatever, just do it that way. But like,
Mhm.
wait until these books are fucking done now, like before trying again. So give it 20 years, try it again. I mean, hell, Peter Jackson has stated that he doesn't want his Middle Earth movies to be the only version that ever happens. He's like, give it 20 years, let someone else have a go. Like, I would be in that mind with Game of Thrones. Wait another 20 years
I would
or
give it
so,
more than
let
20
someone else
years.
have a
I'd give it
chance.
a good 50 at
Mm.
least myself, but maybe that's just
Fi-
me.
I was 50. I don't think is realistic in the current climate of media releases. We're on the third
Mm.
Spider-Man series in the past
Yeah,
2
because they've been
decades.
busy messing it up every time. Lord of the Rings was not a mess up.
But I mean, Lord of the Rings has been done at least twice within 30 years.
Mm.
Probably another time that I'm not thinking of right now. But
No, Lord of the
No,
Rings has
it's
only
only-
been officially
it's
done
only the-
once.
no, it's definitely been deen twice at least.
Yeah, the
When was the
animated
first
and
one?
the animated and the live action. It's only been done live action once.
Pause. Halt. Just a moment right there. None of the 2 anime movies that came out ever did the full Lord of the Rings ever once.
Mm.
At best, the
I
first
thought they did
animated
the
movie
first
tried to
two
get
with
halfway
one group,
through
and then
the second book
and
but
then the
failed.
last movie.
And the second animated movie did only the last book and very abbreviated
Right.
for kids.
So together that makes one trilogy.
Nope. Not even a trilogy.
Well, yeah, like, put it this way: put an asterisk next to it. Technically, it's been done twice, but like, you know,
missing half a book.
live action been done once. But yeah.
And also the fact that the art styles are so different between those animated movies, I wouldn't even try to compare them to one another, to be honest. Like, literally, one of them has rotoscope, and the other one is made by the people who did those Christmas specials like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
I was gonna say, I know one was Ralph Bakshi, but I don't remember what the other.
Rankin Bass.
Rankin Bass
Bass,
is,
that
is the
Yeah.
second one.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, I think that's it for Game of Thrones.
Yep.
I would
But
say,
yeah.
I would say people should just like actually watch it before forming an opinion on it. That's as far as I'll go. I was satisfied, but I can also acknowledge that.
So far,
yes,
my
this could have
opinion
been-
is, wow, you guys really hated
This
that
could have been
last
better.
half of season. I'm not touching it.
All right. So I guess I've been nominated to do the summary.
Mhm.
Yep, you're the one here that's gone the longest without doing one.
I think I did a summary last podcast I was on. What do you mean?
That was how many months ago?
All right. So yes. So I guess should I wait for a countdown?
Sure. 3, 2, 1, begin.
Okay, so the Doctor and Rose are planning to go to a concert in the 1980s, I believe. They end up in the 1880s because, of course, and they're immediately stopped by some Victorian era soldiers, wondering why Rose is naked. In fact, they're so Victorian era that they proceed to introduce her to Queen Victoria, who reads the psychic paper and decides that the Doctor is supposed to be her protector. Because I guess the Doctor doesn't have a connection with his own psychic paper. They go on to the Queen's destination where they're sheltering because she suspects an upcoming assassination attempt. But she doesn't realize that a group of weird monks arrived before her and started conspiring with the people who live there. As they go through, they talk about things such as the Queen's late husband and the fact that he was good friends with the person who lived at the place known as the Torchwood Manor, who was also an
astronomer.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if I should be saying astronomer or astrologer. I always have to stop and think about those. And then after they go to end for the night, they reveal that there's a werewolf and that their purpose is to kill the queen and take over the country. There's a bit of action and chases. Some people die. Regular bullets can't stop the werewolf. But ultimately, the Doctor realizes that the special gem that the Queen has, whom her late husband had been constantly refining throughout his life, was actually prepared as a trap to work with the telescope that the astronomer owns to be able to defeat and I believe vaporize werewolves. The werewolf did scratch the Queen, who refuses to let anybody look at it, which causes the Doctor and Rose to speculate that her descendants are in fact werewolves. The Doctor and Rose are knighted, and then they are banished because they consort with the occult and cause weird shit to happen, at least in the eyes of the Queen. And then the Queen goes on to announce the Torchwood Institute, which would become this season's running plot. The end.
You did it in 2 minutes, 35 seconds.
I think I hit all the important points there.
Most of the major ones.
All right. So we move on to our episode review, and I am up first as to what I liked in the episode. And I really liked the Queen. I like her type of humor, and I realize that this is the sort that would probably get people that don't watch British television to be like, "What do you mean? You know, what was funny about that?" But I really dug the her lines in this episode.
Yeah, pretty much she played it pretty dry and proper.
Slightly witty, perhaps.
Well, that's in the timing of the dialogue going around her, yes. As long as she plays it straightforward, it'll work perfectly.
Yes.
There we go. I finally found a picture of her. Who's next?
Next is Matt.
Okay, it was you, me, and Thomas. Okay.
Yep.
Overall thing I really liked from this, the CGI work, while not 100% perfect, was at least a good 95% better than anything else that they were actually producing on movies at the time. And that's a hard thing for Doctor Who to keep up with, much less British television to keep up with, usually. Usually they're good, like, 10 years behind. They made werewolves more effectively on their small TV budget than what they were able to do with Harry Potter and the Wolfman within, like, the same 5-year range.
And I noticed while looking for screenshots that they got away with it partially by keeping the room really dark, but it was still pretty good, especially, like you said, considering how much better it was than those higher budget productions.
Yeah, those high budget productions would also keep the rooms dark and would only show them at night, etc., but they still failed utterly at trying to make them effective.
Yeah,
I don't think you've seen the Wolfman. I've seen the Wolfman. I forced myself to sit through that. My word, was that a comedy of errors.
I was planning to, and then I started seeing reviews for it, and I didn't bother.
I watched the original Wolfman, and then as a follow-up review, I watched the remake, and I regret it because the remake is so terrible. Just absolutely dumb. And the effects were cheesy at best. It's the werewolf in the Matrix. Can we not anymore? I just want the whole world to burn now. You failed with my Wolfman movie.
God, the funniest thing to me about how like damn good the werewolf in this is that I was letting the credits play through after watching it, and you have the tease for School Reunion and the monsters in that, and I'm like, so this episode was where all the CG budget went.
Yeah, it kind of shows the difference between that episode and this episode because they tried super dang hard with this one to make it perfect.
You're saying compared to what episode?
School Reunion. With the really lackluster imp monsters running around.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. The CG is not great in that one.
Yeah, and clearly most of the CG budget went into this werewolf.
They probably figured for School Reunion that we'd be excited enough to see Tony Head and Liz Sladen that we wouldn't care what it looked like.
Yeah, basically.
And they were mostly right.
They were mostly right. But yeah, they just properly owned a werewolf CGI better than anyone else at the time, and I'm shocked that they haven't come back with more stuff for that. Also, I've seen I'm so interested in how they did the werewolf. I also watched the behind the scenes. Literally, lights flickering when the werewolf was running down the hallway was someone fanning like a script book in front of a torch. And then they just cut them out, had a shot of the hallway without any effects going on, had that shot, and then you just essentially green screened a CGI werewolf into it.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's that simple, and they did it so well.
Hmm.
All right, Thomas. Yeah, we didn't do
Yeah.
Thomas yet, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Thomas.
Given that both things I probably would have said already taken, I'm gonna fall back on my like sort of jokey thing, but also like actually legit thing of thank God this is early enough in Tennant's run that we don't have fucking. We're like literally what? This is the last saving grace episode before we get fucking Rose fawning over the Doctor because School Reunion has that fucking catty girlfriend shit.
Hmm.
But this is the one where it's just them, and they're in this situation, and there is literally nothing about a potential romantic feeling either way.
But
in
it's
this
always
episode.
worse in the Mickey episodes because I think that was an issue in Boomtown as well. It's when Mickey comes around is when the soap opera drama starts.
Yeah. Like, the one thing I didn't like so much, I remember harping on this probably when we did School Reunion, but it's just like, the fucking, like, it's bad enough. But then, thankfully, this is one of those where not only is Rose just not annoying at all in this, but, like, this is before she goes, like, full-on fangirl, like, crush on the Doctor mode. So it's just like, it's so nice to just have them being the Doctor and his companion without it that looming over your head. And this was an RTD written episode, so he very could have easily put that in there, but it's like, because it would have just dragged, to me anyway, it would have dragged the episode down, because you would have had to have had shit about it, but they don't, and they just let it play.
Mm-hmm. All right, all done?
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of segues into what I disliked about the episode, and that is that Rose really thinks she's clever, and she really, at the very least, has not nailed comedic timing, because within like 5 minutes, her "I'll make her say amuse" joke is already used 3 times, and it's really running old already at that point. Like, let it breathe, woman. Like, give it a chance to settle before you keep bringing it up.
Especially because, like, half the time she's not even, like, there's like one time where she's trying to be a bit subtle about it, but then every other time
there's
she's
a couple
just
times
like,
where it's just like, okay, we get the idea.
Yeah.
Is that it?
Matt?
All right. Going on to me then. This is basically me nitpicking. How the hell do the monks fit into all this?
I think they're all werewolves.
That doesn't compute, Doctor.
Well, it's like very kind of, from what I can remember, it's kind of blink and you'll miss it, but this thing seems to be that wherever this planet, or whatever the fuck this werewolf being alien is from, crashed near their monastery or something, and has been using them as hosts. Like, some of the monks as hosts, so they've come to worship it or some shit.
Then the next step is, how likely is it that Shaolin monks are suddenly going to invade a mansion in Britain to feed their host for this weird werewolf creature to their queen to try and I quote, take over the world? Of course!
Yeah, that's the weird thing, is like, that's the thing that bugged me, is like, wait a minute, aren't these supposed to just be like typical English, like UK style monks? Why are they able to do kung fu and shit?
the whole Shaolin part is just like, what the hell?
Good. Mm-hmm. That's a good point. I hadn't made that connection. So yeah, they're, as far as I know, Catholic monks, and yeah, that's not a Catholic monk thing.
Nope.
Neither is shaving their head, for that matter.
Depends upon which church you're with.
Okay.
The shaving of the head stuff.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
There are ones that'll just shave the top. There are ones that'll go
Or-
full bald. There are ones
I
that won't
shouldn't say
touch it at all.
Catholic. At this point, they'd be Anglican monks, which are
Mm.
pseudo-Catholics.
Yeah, it really depends
Yeah.
upon your particular chapter of Catholicism.
Mm.
But yeah,
So
there's
that-
just parts of these monks that just don't
Mhm.
quite add up.
Mm.
All right, Thomas.
Oh. Pretty much, I just have to fall back on the monks as well, because it's like you could pretty much get away with just having this one dude to a point, like the one guy who's like the orchestrator. Like it's if they were explained out a bit better and not just in like a throwaway sentence. Because I feel like, yeah, they're going on about it, and then it's like, oh, well, they must have, landed here in this one thing. Because they're just breezing through a book, and the doctor's like, there was like some shooting, like they all thought it was like a shooting star or some shit, and it had been in a monastery, like it landed near the monastery, and it infected the thing. And that's like the only time it comes up. So it's like, you could have kind of gone with that more, and also just the whole fact that they're like friggin' kung fu monks in friggin' 1879 Scotland. Like, what the fuck's going on here?
See, if they were in a place
Ah.
where Shaolin monks would have actually been, I totally would have given them the
Now-
birth. But
The one saving grace on that is that I think England had conquered colonized parts of China at that point, so there could have been boats back and forth. But that's a little bit of a
maybe.
stretch.
That's quite the stretch.
Especially considering they're like the only monk that we hear talk is using a Scottish accent. So
That's it is quite the reach. I think the episode needs to stretch before it reaches that hard.
They couldn't afford I would not be surprised, actually, if the script originally had a big werewolf and multiple small werewolves, and then the CGI guy was like, yo, dial it back a bit. And they were like, okay,
Yeah,
they'll
just went
become monks instead.
just went at them and just like, no. Not unless you're planning to do prosthetics for those small werewolves. Which they could have. I mean, look at those full body robes. Just need gloves and headpieces.
Yeah.
Now, if it was only the 70s, they could have borrowed prosthetics from Star Wars.
Oh, hell, if it was the 60s, they could have just borrowed the Planet of the Apes makeup and made the snouts out longer.
Right. Yeah, at the very least, the hands they could have done.
Mm-hmm.
Was that Thomas?
Yeah, that was Thomas.
Yeah.
So
Okay, so
back
it's time to
around.
my favorite scene, and I've been trying to isolate a specific scene, and I guess I'll go with the knighting / exile, just because it's poignant and funny at the same time.
Yeah.
Even though it brings back the annoying recurring joke, but at least it does so in a natural way and not like forced by Rose.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like the fact that like they're all like, yes, finally got her to say it, and then she's like, no, shut the fuck up. Like, this is what the fuck is going on. Like, this shit is fucked, and you keep acting like this is a joke, but like this is scary shit. Like, what the hell? Like calling them on their shit, basically, and being like, I'm thankful you helped me, but fuck off.
Right.
Which, that actress sells the shit out of that.
Mm-hmm. All right. Trying to think. Favorite scene. I'll go. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with the entire chase scene. because there's just so much good stuff that they did there with the practical effects mixed with the CGI to the point of view of the werewolf. Just that was a legit, decently done horror chase scene within a sci-fi show.
The sacrifice.
Yeah.
You had the both listening to each other on opposite sides of the door.
You had a couple of close call numbers there, and just a lot of really good stuff that happened in that in one chase right off the bat.
Yeah.
And I think that comes literally right off of a reveal of the werewolf itself too, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, it's
pretty
the next
much.
scene, I think.
Yeah, pretty much it goes reveal and run for your lives. So yeah.
So Bill took my first one. So
Yeah, I would not have picked that
thankfully-
scene if there were 5 of us.
Oh yeah, like thankfully I have a backup, and that is the Queen killing that lead monk. Just because that is such like a that's reasonable. Like I would expect that she would be like, yeah, no, fuck you.
Yeah, she's
Like,
been running for her life for how long?
That's right, she did successfully kill him, right? Because he was all like, that's not going to work.
Pistol shot, yeah.
Yeah, she's like, he doesn't expect her to like have been a threat, or like, I guess he expects that the gun might not actually be loaded, and it's just like using it as a threat, and she's just like, nope.
I hadn't realized that, because it's like, he's like, that's was a think again woman, and she's like, the correct thing is your majesty. She pulls the trigger, it cuts to another scene, and then it like, I keep expecting it to cut. I kept thinking it was going to cut back and he was going to still be alive and laugh because it's not a silver bullet. And that's not that never happens.
Yeah, like the gun goes off and then it cuts back to the Doctor and Rose running around being chased by the werewolf or whatever, and then we get they come to her and she's like, and they ask her what happened, and it's like, that other guy killed him. It's like, doesn't take credit for killing the guy.
Yeah, basically, I believe
it's not a proper thing for a royal to do.
I also believe the excuse from her was, my husband taught me, and they just went with it from there.
Well, yeah, like the thing is, like she's had that many attempts on her life already that she
needed some proper training for self-defense at that point. Yeah.
Yeah, like she's not stupid. She realizes that her life's going to be in danger and that she's going to have to fend for herself at some point.
Even if it's not quite proper.
Was that, Thomas?
That was that was Thomas.
And so now it's time for least favorite. And so my least favorite scene is the scene where she's like, "Oh, I'm in danger. Let's pull out this giant diamond and have a long conversation about it." I get that they needed to introduce it to the episode, but there were better times and better places, and just
that should have been like a Chekhov's gun, like way early. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's sort of like, it's foreshadowed because they keep going on about like this random thing that
like it was mentioned,
like,
but it was like, why would, like, first of all, she shouldn't have been carrying it. What was it, in her purse or whatever? Like it should have had an assigned guard who did nothing but carry it around in a briefcase all day.
The thing seems to have been that because of the attack, she took it from where it was being, like the chest or whatever that it was supposed to be carried in, and had it on her. So it was with her, so someone couldn't like grab it or something like that. Because all the guards were knocked out.
That makes sense from it makes sense from a logical standpoint. From a storytelling standpoint, it should have been with a guard so that they could talk to the guard about it, and then he could die and somebody be forced to pick it up and run.
At the same time, I also feel like the best incognito for moving something that expensive and that important would be to literally have it in your purse, because who's going to look?
But like I mainly say that because that scene was so clunky and awkward, and it would have been less so if they had not done that.
Well, again, that's why you would have
That's
checked
why I
off
say
gun
logical
that allowed
standpoint
sooner.
versus
Yeah.
storytelling. Yeah.
There's either way. There's loops and roundabouts of how to perfect that a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
Or like, I guess even if it, because like I think the only time it's like addressed that it's like something that they could very easily not be talking about is that the like that that soldier or whoever is like the doctor asks, oh, what's in that? What's in the box? And the guy's like, it's none of your like basically says it's none of your business. And and then it's just like, oh, okay. But then that's like
Yeah.
the only time it's like until later. That's like the only time it's mentioned earlier.
Right.
Like.
But like the time that we physically see it for the first time should not be
Mm.
like, oh, we're scared for our lives. We're gonna have a long conversation about this right now.
Okay.
That was me, right?
Yep.
So Matt.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. So, not quite the same thing, but something's very close to that scene. They're iffy explanations as to why the werewolf just like literally doesn't just walk into the room. Like, why doesn't he? I get that the room is technically supposed to be made to be a trap, but was the wood like or something supposed to actually keep it out?
Yeah,
I
there
forget.
was
there was
like,
this scene where the werewolf listened at the door and thought that they went somewhere else, and then went looking for them. I think that's the explanation for why he didn't.
the thing seemed to be, from what I can remember, is that the doctor realizes, as does the guy who owns the house's wife, both realize that, like one realizes that there's like a ton of friggin' mistletoe on the floor in the kitchen for some reason, and fuck knows why that. And then suddenly it transitions into the doctor looking at the doors, and there's like mistletoe things on the doors, and it's like, well, that wouldn't be enough. And then he thinks about it, and then he licks the door and realizes that it's been coated with some sort of oil made from mistletoe or something like that, and that like apparently
Is mistletoe related to wolfsbane, or is that?
I think it's supposed to be wolfsbane, and he's just saying mistletoe because that's what it looks like.
Oh, okay.
maybe, yeah, because like the idea is that it's supposed to be like maybe he's like, it shouldn't actually hurt the werewolf, but the doctor assumes that the monks trained it to think that it was vulnerable to that.
Or something to that
They
effect.
could
can't
So
control it.
yeah, it can't go through the door because it doesn't think it can handle that stuff. So they didn't need to barricade the doors, and that's why it comes in through the roof.
yeah, I just found it like really kind of iffy logic, that particular whole bit.
I mean, I'll say this much: the sudden realization of it is quite random, because suddenly the woman in the women who are down in the hiding in the kitchen and that realize that there's mistletoe, and then they go somehow from that they reckon that this has something to do with, oh, we can save ourselves if we have this or whatever. And then like, yeah, suddenly you cut right to the doctor making the same connection, and it's like, well, that's a bit out of nowhere.
Right.
Yeah, it's a little convoluted. Yeah, I for people who are just tuning in, I have not actually seen this episode this week, but I've seen it several times over. So I'm just trying to remember what that logic was, and I always just felt that it kind of burped.
Yeah.
And yeah,
I mean,
the doctor's sudden figuring it out does still kind of smack of.
And yeah, I generally hold to, if you can't remember like if you're trying to remember an episode and you remember everything except a certain point, that means that point was not delivered that well.
That too.
Yeah.
So it's just like,
Well,
that
I
wasn't
watched
quite
it,
the
yeah.
best delivery on that.
Yeah, the only reason I'd have the best memory of it is because I watched it twice in 12 hours, so like today. So
The fact that I've only gotten the fact that I've gotten this far without having to ask questions about the episode tells you how well I remember this episode.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
And my summary probably didn't help on the nitty gritty details
No.
either.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't. So the fact that I remember most of this, there you go. But yeah, that was always kind of meh. So Thomas,
Oh, God.
the bad, the good, the bad, the horrible, the mediocre. What you got?
Well, I'm just trying to think because I don't remember if there was any scenes that I hated. Um. God. Honestly, I'll probably just go with. I probably had another line, but I'll probably just go with like the kung fu shit to open the episode with, because it's just like well, like we brought it up before, so I won't go into that whole spiel again. But it's just like, what the fuck are Scottish monks doing kung fu for? It's so silly.
Just
Like,
a reason for them to use kung fu fighting in the Doctor Who Confidential episode.
and then like some of them are even wearing like Shaolin looking shit underneath. They're like,
Well, most of them are. They're all
very
wearing like gis and sandals,
yeah, like underneath
and they do
the
crouching tiger
normal monk
flips
or
at
whatever.
that particular scene and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like, what the fuck? They could have just beaten the shit out of all these old men, because they're basically just a bunch of old men. Like, they
Yeah.
could have kicked their asses anyway.
Well, middle-aged men at the very least, yeah. And yeah, the only thing literally missing to make this more awkward and out of nowhere is somebody with a straw hat shooting lightning bolts out their fingers.
Well, I mean, we do have, like, the lead monk is played by that fucking, I don't know if he's supposed to be called a sorcerer or whatever, but he was, like, in season 2 of Game of Thrones.
Oh.
In, Calf. Like, with the weird, like, blue lips and shit and whatever.
Was he an Undying?
Yeah, the, Piat Pri, or Piat Pri, or however it's pronounced. The guy who, like, ends up making it seem like there's, like, 1 billion of him or whatever.
Gotcha.
That, like, steals Danny's dragons and that. Which was another thing of, oh hey, watching earlier Game of Doctor Who Doctor Who episodes and finding friggin' Game of Thrones actors
Mhm.
again. But yeah, it's just like, what the hell? Like, you didn't need that. It just seemed like, oh, well, all monks are like that, right? So stupid.
Let's find out. Let's give one of them a palm strike to the ribs and find out if they can retaliate.
Yeah, that's me done.
All right, so I guess that's final thoughts then.
Yeah. So final thoughts. So this was a very good episode. And the main thing initially keeping me on the fence between whether it was in the top tier or the next grading down was that it's a little small scale compared to most really great episodes. And that if it was going to be in pretty much just one location, I'd have preferred more of a deep dive into the mythology of werewolves than we got. I've also realized that that's quite a bit of a nitpick and not that much of an objective criticism in and of itself. That's more my personal how I would have liked the story rather than what they needed to do. We did bring up some issues that kind of affected the episode and made it a little odd. But altogether, I still think it's definitely on the upper side. Definitely belongs in this good section of good, bad, and ugly we've been doing. Well, you guys have been doing, because I can't really take
because
any
somebody
credit
needs
for
to play catch up. Shame.
Yes. Yeah, I'm about a year behind on some of these episodes. So, but yeah, good episode. Again, love the Queen. I don't know. I haven't seen anything to indicate this was one of a celebrity cameo in the sense that Doctor Who would do later. But she definitely seems a good enough actress that if you told me she was a famous actress in Britain, I would not be surprised.
I'll say this much: I've seen her in exactly one movie, and it's not something that would have made me think, yeah, she can play Queen Victoria.
I mean, if she's a British actress, she's probably played Shakespeare more than she's been in movies.
Possibly.
Probably the thing
that's
she's
the way
the
of
thing I
Britain.
mostly the thing I mostly know her for is a movie that she was in. It's also like a stage show.
Mm-hmm.
So
So yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts. So Matt,
All right. My thoughts on this werewolf is probably the best werewolf we've ever had in any kind of TV or movie media in an extremely long time. So the effects are already above notch, even in the few shots here or there where they kind of get iffy. The acting is pretty damn well done of everyone, even despite some of the sillier bits which we nitpicked on. And let be told, those parts we nitpicked on are really like tiny parts of this. The overall structure of this is really well done. The story is pretty solid despite any flaws in logic. And the monster is a particularly notable one that, despite not returning to, has been mentioned a lot, especially on this show.
mm,
Um, Outside of that, just a really good overall episode. I have seen this thing more times than I can count already, which is again is why I'm able to talk on this despite not seeing it this week. But that's about it. This one's still rating pretty high for me.
Mm.
So Thomas,
yeah, as someone who has seen this, like I meant to watch this before today, but since I didn't, I decided to because I was awake so damn early. I watched it once, waited quite a few hours, and then watched it again. And the fact that watching it essentially twice in a day and not getting bored by it at all, honestly, to me, like, is a big plus for this episode. And I do feel like, as much as there were certain things that, like, did bug me, whether it was nitpicky or not, I feel like the acting alone makes up for that. Like, there are so many things I will overlook until, like, we actually, like, critically assess it. Just because the acting is, like, so spot on. We don't have to deal with any crap. Like, honestly, as kind of, um, like, as much as Rose pushing the whole, not amused thing does get kind of like, okay, seriously, can you stop now, please? Um, Rose herself isn't that bad in this. God knows I prefer her in this to School Reunion, which is, again, literally like the next episode after this. And just, like, I can definitely see why, this was put with the good stuff. And yeah, like, I would definitely say that this is worth giving a shot. Like, if you are just skimming through skimming through New Who, I would say that I would still suggest seeing this one. And just I'll add on as an aside. Apparently, the actress who played Queen Victoria was in the Faceless Ones.
Hmm.
So that's kind of an interesting thing. She was in a Troughton story. She would have been very young when that happened, but still. At least I think she would have been. Okay, she would have been in, like, at
least her teens or
like
maybe
20.
20s.
Yeah, she would have been in her 20s, looking at her wiki. So yeah, she's another one of those actors who's been in both, old and new.
Well, she clearly worked on her craft during that time.
Most likely. All right, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so that's ratings. So for me, it was in between 4.5 and 5, but ultimately I think I'll settle on a high 4.5 rather than a low 5.
Ooh.
Matt
5.
and Thomas.
I
You're the
think there's
tiebreaker,
just
unless you
yeah,
go
I
low.
think well, yeah, I think there's just enough
that I could not give it a 5, but I can't justify giving it any lower than a 4.5, so I'm going to give it a 4.5.
Okay.
Oof.
Keeping in mind that when we finally get Randy's, that might go up.
Yeah.
Mm.
There's a very good chance of that. So for now, it is a 4.7, and so I'm not sure everything Randy does, and I'm definitely not as well practiced as it is he is. So I'm just going to go and look and compare to what is already there rather than copy and paste. So the other 4.7s we have are Day of the Doctor, Countryside, The Stolen Earth Journey's End, and In Remembrance, all very good stories. Letter are School Reunion, The Armageddon Factor, Dark Water, Death in Heaven, The Robots of Death, Time Heist, The Empty Child, The Doctor Dances, Genesis of the Daleks, and Dalek. And the ones that are slightly worse are The Bells of St. John, The Ark, The Return of Dr. Mysterio, The Magician's Apprentice, The Witch is Familiar, The Invasion of Time, The Ghost Monument, Arachnids in the UK, The Talons of Wang Chiang, and The Seeds of Death. So I'd say that's in good company.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, don't forget to like the video if you're watching on YouTube, and to comment your thoughts on Tooth and Claw. Do you think Thomas and I are crazy? Do you think Matt's crazy? Do you think we're all crazy? Or do you agree with the the average score, and why? Also, don't forget to subscribe, ring the bell, follow us on Twitch, all that fun stuff. Next week, we continue with The Good, and we go on to Human Nature, Family of Blood, written by Paul Cornell and starring David Tennant as the Doctor and Freema Agyeman as Martha Jones. And we tried looking up to see how she pronounces that, but literally in the one page I found discussing it, included about 4 different pronunciations that everybody thought was the correct one. So if you know the answer, comment below.
I'm not crazy. I'm mad.
Until then, good night, everybody.
Good night.